Production. It's a word we hear all the time, but what does it really mean for a business? Well, today we're going to break it down. We'll look at how everything from a single custom meal to millions of identical cars gets made. And if you're studying business, you're going to want to stick around because these core principles are absolutely essential.
So, to get our heads around this, we're going to frame our entire discussion around this one simple question. We'll follow the journey of a small food business, seeing how it grows from a tiny kitchen into a massive factory. And along the way, we'll uncover the key methods and challenges that every business faces when it comes to production.
But before we can even think about scaling up, we have to start at square one. Let's get a really solid handle on what we actually mean by the word production. Okay, here's the official definition, but I want you to focus on one key idea here: transformation. See, production isn't just about making stuff. It's the magic of taking basic inputs, raw materials, parts, a person's time and skill, and combining them to create an output that's worth more than all those individual parts.
A simple example makes this crystal clear. On the left, you've got your inputs: a few eggs, some cheese, a splash of milk. Pretty basic, right? But through the process of production, the cooking, the plating, the skill, they are transformed into the finished omelet on the right. That is an output someone actually wants to buy.
And let's put some numbers on that value. Imagine a restaurant buys those ingredients for, say, $10. But after the chef works their magic, that final meal sells for $50. That $40 difference, that is the value added by production. And that, right there, is where a business's profit comes from. It's the whole point.
All right, now that we've nailed down what production is, let's get back to that story I mentioned. We're going to follow a fictional entrepreneur, let's call her Tara, as she grows her Thai food business. You'll see that as her business gets bigger, her method of production has to change dramatically.
So Tara starts out small, just cooking from her own kitchen. A customer calls, asks for a specific Thai dish with extra spice, and she makes that one meal exactly how they want it. This is the very first method of production we need to understand.
This is called job production. Think of a tailor making a custom suit or a mechanic building a one-of-a-kind motorcycle. It's all about making a single, unique product designed to meet a customer's specific needs. The quality can be amazing, but it's often slow and pretty expensive because it's so labor-intensive.
Well, Tara's food gets so popular, she just can't keep up with all the individual orders. So she takes the next step. She rents a small factory. Now, instead of making one custom dish, she decides to spend the morning making a huge quantity of pad thai. Then, after lunch, she'll clean all the equipment and make a huge quantity of green curry.
And this leads us to batch production. This is a huge step up in scale. You're making groups or batches of identical items. This is super common. Think about a bakery making a batch of croissants, then a batch of sourdough, or a clothing company making a batch of blue shirts in size medium. It gives you more scale, but you do have that downtime when you have to switch from one product to the next.
Finally, Tara's business explodes. She lands contracts to supply supermarkets, maybe even airlines. So she goes all in. She buys a massive automated facility with a conveyor belt system that does just one thing. It pumps out her single most popular dish, nonstop, 24/7. This, my friends, is flow production, what most of us know as mass production. This is how cars, smartphones, and canned drinks are made. It's all about producing insane quantities of a standardized product on a continuous assembly line. The cost for each individual item becomes incredibly low, but the setup cost is astronomical, and you can forget about customization.
Okay, this table here is pure gold. It sums up the three methods perfectly. For any business exam, you absolutely have to know the difference. You'll likely get a scenario and be asked to recommend a method. So just remember, job is for unique one-off items. Batch is for variety made in groups. And flow is for massive, standardized volume. Got it? Good. So Tara has scaled her business. She's picked the right method for her size. But that's only half the battle. The next big challenge for any business is getting more efficient. How do you squeeze more output from the same amount of inputs? How do you work smarter? And the key way to measure that is with this formula for labor productivity. Now, it looks simple, but it is so important. It tells you exactly how much output you're getting for every employee you have. If you can make that number go up, maybe through better training, better tools, or just better motivation, your costs go down and you become way more competitive.
Now, one of the most famous philosophies for boosting efficiency is something called lean production. The entire goal here is simple. Hunt down and eliminate any and all waste in the production process. We're talking wasted time, wasted materials, wasted effort, anything that doesn't add value for the customer. Lean production actually identifies 7 key types of waste. And this is another classic exam topic. It includes things you might not think of, like overproduction, making stuff before you have orders for it, or motion, which could be as simple as a worker having to walk across the factory floor just to get a tool. Cutting out these little bits of waste adds up to huge savings.
A really cool concept that comes out of lean production is Kaizen, which is a Japanese term for continuous improvement. Now, the key here isn't about the boss buying a fancy new robot. It's about empowering the workers on the factory floor, the people who actually do the job, to spot problems and suggest small incremental improvements every single day.
Another huge lean technique is just-in-time inventory, or JIT, made famous by Toyota. The idea is brilliant. Instead of paying for a giant warehouse to store all your raw materials, you have your suppliers deliver them exactly when you need them for the production line. It's incredibly efficient and cuts costs, but, as you can imagine, it requires your suppliers to be perfectly reliable.
Of course, we can't have a modern conversation about production without talking about technology. It has been a complete and utter game changer in how we make pretty much everything.
And this is the image that probably springs to mind for most of us: automation. You've got robots on an assembly line, all controlled by computers. This system is known as computer-aided manufacture, or CAM. These machines can do incredibly precise, repetitive, or even dangerous jobs 24 hours a day without ever getting tired.
And that technology starts even before a single thing is built. With computer-aided design, or CAD, engineers can create, test, and tweak products entirely on a computer. And the best part? That digital design can often be sent directly to the CAM robots on the factory floor, creating a seamless link from an idea to a finished product. But listen, it is not just about factories. Technology makes our service industries way more efficient too. Think about the checkout at the supermarket. That's an EPOS system, electronic point of sale. It's scanning your items, updating inventory, and taking your payment all at once. And the same revolution has completely transformed banking with ATMs and mobile apps.
And all of this leads us to one final really big question. We've seen production evolve from a single person in a kitchen to a fully automated factory. As that trend continues, as automation gets smarter and more capable, what does that mean for the future of human work? What roles are left for people in the production processes of tomorrow? That's a huge question, and one we all need to be thinking about.